Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our monthly webinar, part of our advising and access series. Today's webinar, we will be looking at early post-secondary opportunities in the EPSO landscape in Kentucky. And I'm not able to see the slide deck yet. There we go. Thank you. So just to reiterate, early post-secondary opportunities in Kentucky allow high school students to earn college credit, trade certifications, or advanced standing through track apprenticeships, work-based learning opportunities, etc., and be better prepared for their post-secondary endeavors. And today we have five experts joining us to discuss updates and valuable information that you can use to support students in understanding and taking advantage of those early post-secondary opportunities. So I want to welcome our panelists, and we have with us John Pace, who's the program consultant for CTE Post-Secondary and Career Readiness with the Office of Career and Technical Education, Tina Brogel, the Work-Based Learning Coordinator for OCTE, Mary Taylor, the Industry Development and Training Specialist for OCTE, Sharon Collins, the Middle School Career Studies Consultant, also with OCTE, and then we have our very own Robin Abair, who is the Senior Fellow for Policy and Development at CPE, and she will be talking to us about dual credit. So, welcome guests, welcome panelists. Thank you all for joining us. And we are going to move right into our conversation. And we're going to start off with John. So, good morning, John. How are you?
I'm very well, and good morning, Mitzi, and thank you for inviting me.
Well, you are very welcome. Glad to have you. So, John, your job is to support counselors around career and technical education. And so, I want to talk just a little bit about how you are supporting them as they help students rethink what post-secondary education means and also understand how EPSOs can align with those career opportunities.
For sure. Well, as you said, for my portion of the webinar, I want to focus on career skills and post-secondary opportunities within career and technical education, and really offer a kind of a 20,000-foot overview of the benefits that CTE offers for developing a robust post-secondary plan for students. And my goal today is to share a few practical resources and strategies that can help strengthen conversations with students about their futures and support intentional career and post-secondary planning. So, Heather, next slide, please. So we've got a little brain teaser for you. If you go ahead and advance it, it somehow got some, yeah. I want you to think for a moment about what types of jobs and careers have seen significant decline in the last 5 years. And then I also want you to think about what types of jobs or careers exist today that did not exist 5 years ago. And then if you would, if in either the Q&A or the chat, whatever's available, write down one of each of those and take a look at them and start to think about that. And I'm starting with a brief discussion on the workforce and job market, as this is our end goal. And that's helping students determine what path will best suit them in their interests and abilities and career goals. And when students are making these determinations, it's important to consider what their return on investment is going to be and the viability of a variety of career paths that in the past were really quite stable, but with the ever-shifting tides of the workforce and industry, intentional post-secondary planning needs to be constructed. And we need to help students make decisions that will best fit their goals. And that work needs to start as early as middle school. We're going to hear some more about that a little later. And career and technical education is the tool that can best help students with intentional post-secondary planning. Heather? Next slide, please. And when we talk about career and technical education, we are talking about preparing students for both careers and future education. CTE programs promote post-secondary and career readiness and develops a student's technical skills alongside durable skills like communication, teamwork, and problem solving. It helps students connect classroom learning to real-world applications and explore careers without limiting future options. Most importantly, CTE is not an alternative to college. It is a pathway that can lead to college, registered apprenticeships, technical training, military service, and high demand careers. Next slide. Now, post-secondary education is not a single pathway. Students may choose a four-year university, a community college, a registered apprenticeship, technical school, military service, industry certifications or professional licensure, or employer-based training programs. These are all forms of post-secondary education. So think of post-secondary education as an umbrella. And the goal is not to determine which pathway is best overall. The goal is to help each student identify the pathway that best aligns with their strengths, interests, values, and career goals. Next slide, please. Now, career and technical education is intentionally designed to support students from middle school through graduation. Students begin with career exploration in middle school, then enter pathways in high school where they can advance to pathway concentrators and preferably completers. And along the way, they may earn industry certifications, participate in career and technical student organizations, engage in work-based learning, and even participate in track pre-apprenticeships. And we're going to hear some more about those later too. So together, these experiences help students build skills, credentials, and confidence for life after high school. Next slide. Now, we've developed a resource that can help you with all of this, and the School Counselor's Toolkit serves as a centralized resource hub that brings together resources for academic planning, career exploration, and post-secondary transitions. Now, rather than search multiple websites, a counselor can use this toolkit as a one-stop source for advising resources that support students and families throughout the planning process. And today, I'll highlight just a few of the resources available within the toolkit. Next slide.
So, John, let me
Yeah,
pause that
sure,
before you move in,
sure.
because
Yeah,
that's what, my next question was about.
yeah.
And, it's we know that that all students have different dreams, and each student's dream is super important.
Mm-hmm.
And you alluded to that there's many paths to the same destination. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to point out that I did want to ask you about tools and resources that were available to support students,
Yep.
specifically in career and technical education. So you are answering my next question before I even asked it. So just wanted to point that out to our folks on the uh, Zoom with us today.
I know you well, Mitzi. I know you well. My psychic abilities are tuning into your wavelength. Well, the School Counselor's Toolkit serves as a centralized resource, as I've said, and is a hub that brings together resources for academic planning, career exploration, and post-secondary transitions. And and one resource that I do want to point out is something that I developed last year and that we're in the process of updating. And that is the CTE Career Strengths Guidance Document. And this document helps connect students' interests, strengths, and aptitudes to Kentucky CTE pathways and careers. It provides information on career options, work environments, and post-secondary opportunities, making it a valuable tool for career exploration and pathway selection conversations. So I took a screenshot as opposed to like trying to jockey back and forth between the actual document. But this gives you an idea looking at agribusiness systems. It has 4 columns that break out various career choices that students can launch into after this pathway, either immediately after high school or into a post-secondary program, whether that's found at a community college or four-year university. So it has career choices, aptitudes that are particularly needed for that pathway, common work environments, places where students can find themselves. So if a student is not particularly wanting to work outdoors, this might not be the one for them. And then post-secondary opportunities found in Kentucky, both within the KCTCS system and public universities. Next slide. Now, we couldn't have this conversation without Plug-in Futurity. Another excellent resource that many of you, I'm sure, have heard of is Futurity. And that's Kentucky's career and education planning website. And students can explore careers, review Kentucky wage and labor market information, learn about education requirements, and connect career interests to available pathways. For counselors, It provides career, college, financial aid, apprenticeship, and workforce information all in one location, making advising conversations more informed and efficient. Next slide. Now, the Kentucky Workforce Innovation Board, or KWIB, provides valuable workforce data and information about Kentucky's high demand industries and workforce needs. Now, counselors can use these resources to better understand labor market trends, support individual learning plans, and help students connect career interests with opportunities available throughout the Commonwealth. And I pulled out some information from the KWIB website, and they have listed, and they change this up, I think, about every 5 years, the top 5 in-demand sectors that show not only current needs, but that are going to have longevity and growth over the next, I believe, 30 years. So we can see that number one is healthcare. A lot of people think that education should have been number 2, but it's not, according to the data and the research that they've put in. Number 2 and number 3 are manufacturing and logistics and construction, both skilled trades areas. And then education is number 4, and then professional, scientific, and technical services. So those are the top 5 currently in Kentucky. Next slide. Now, Kentucky statewide articulation agreements help connect high school students and their CTE programs with post-secondary institutions. And these agreements allow students to receive college credit for work that they've completed in their CTE high school pathways. Now, for students and families, this demonstrates how CTE can save both time and money while supporting both post-secondary success. Next slide. And dual credit is another valuable opportunity to Kentucky students. We're going to hear more about this later as well. Through CTE dual credit, students can earn both high school and college credit simultaneously. These courses can help students experience college-level work, reduce future tuition costs, and accelerate progress toward college credentials. So as counselors, you can help students determine how dual credit fits into their individual career and post-secondary plans. Next slide. So as I wrap up this portion of the webinar, I'd like to leave you with a few key takeaways. First of all, career and technical education is more than a set of courses. It helps students connect their interests, strengths, and goals to meaningful careers and post-secondary opportunities while building the skills they need for future success and skills that employers are always telling us they are looking for. Second, post-secondary success looks different for every student. Whether it's a university, a community college, an apprenticeship, military service, technical training, or an industry certification, our goal is to help students find the pathway that best aligns with their aspirations. Third, early and intentional planning matters. Experiences such as career exploration, dual credit, industry certifications, work-based learning, participating in career and technical student organizations, these all help students make informed decisions about their futures. Finally, the School Counselor's Toolkit provides outstanding resources to support this work. Any questions? Do we have any questions in the chat? Or I saw some comments pop up from a little bit.
Yeah, you have several people that commented some jobs that are now available, that
Mhm.
weren't a few years ago. So
Yeah.
thank you, John, for sharing that information, that high-level overview of all the things related to career and technical education. And as you mentioned, we are going to take a deep dive into many of those here in the next little bit with our other panelist guests.
Well,
So
thank you, Misty. I
appreciate it.
enjoyed being here. Thank you.
We certainly appreciate it. And we're going to move on to our next two panelists, and we're going to bring Mary Taylor and Tina Brogel together onto the screen. Tina is our work-based learning coordinator, and Mary is the industry and training and development specialist for the Office of Career and Technical Education. And ladies, again, thank you all for joining us, and excited to hear the information that you are going to be sharing. So we want to start with Tina, and I think most everyone on this call is familiar with what work-based learning is, and the fact that it does afford students lots of great opportunities. But just wanted to hear from you a little bit, Tina, on how work-based learning experiences can reinforce classroom learning and the students' career goals.
Sure, Mitzi. It's great to be here today. If we can go to the next slide, I do want everybody on the call to know, or everybody on the webinar to know, that work-based learning is incorporated into state law. And if you're working with work-based learning at a secondary level and you've never checked out the work-based learning manual, you can scan this QR code or go to the link, and I think the link is going over in the chat, and check that out. And it's always great to talk about work-based learning and what it is. So move the slide on and we'll see that work-based learning in Kentucky is there's a framework in the manual that is created by legislators, but we need to understand, first of all, Mitzi, that both students and employers and your community have a lot of positive rewards from work-based learning. It's building community, building relationships, and creating a scaffolding that we're hoping will give success to our students as they move on, either to a successful launch into their career or to a successful post-secondary experience, whatever the goal for the student is. So if we go to the next slide, I just wanted you to see in a little snapshot that there are 8 different identified types of work-based learning in Kentucky by definition. You know, that's service learning, mentoring, shadowing, entrepreneurship, and school-based enterprises. And while all of them are very important, most of the conversations that Mary and I have are centered around internships and co-op experiences, and then, of course, the registered youth apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs that Mary's going to dive into. But all of these are very important. I think that probably the internship and co-ops are the 2 conversations that I would have with you today. So if we can go on to that internship slide. I just want to say that internships are really important for building communication with your community and with partners. Internships are unique in work-based learning in that they always require an instructive quality to be associated with them. And if you go to the manual and read that chapter on internship, you'll see what that's all about. And then the next type of course code we have that's directly in secondary would be the co-op. And our co-op course codes, in my opinion, are the most powerful because where an internship always has an instructive quality, where the employer is working directly with the student all the time, an intern or a co-op is an opportunity for a student who's been in a CTE program at the secondary level and learned all they can through pathway experience in their classes. It gives them an opportunity to go out into the real world and actually do the job. So co-op experiences are really powerful in teaching students exactly what happens in the workforce and building those hopefully lifelong connections with their community and their future employer partners. And co-op enrollments are how our track youth apprenticeship programs are documented. And so all of that sort of comes together, creating the reinforcement from academics to real world involvement with our students.
And Tina, I'm a huge proponent of
Good.
work-based learning. We know that diehard CTE started out CTE business teacher, and so I do know there's a value in work-based learning for students. So, what evidence have you seen that it does impact students' post-secondary success?
Well, Missy, I'm also a diehard CTE. I identify as a business teacher. I always say that it'll never not be true. But I know people like their data. And so we do have some hard evidence on how these internships and co-op enrollments work toward work-based learning being meaningful. And of course, there are 5 different ways for a student to become career ready in the state of Kentucky. One of those ways is work-based learning through internship and co-op codes. Another one of those 5 is through the apprenticeship that Mary's going to be talking about. And so, 2/5 of that is work-based learning, which I think is enough said. But if you look at this data, if you like graphs, I thought I would show you one. We've been collecting data since 23, 24, and there is a marked increase in work-based learning, and that directly correlates with our increased career readiness numbers. And, there's just no way to ignore how those numbers go together, I don't think. And then if we go to the next slide there, you're going to see a significant percentile boost in the 24-25. So that would be the second school year that we actually created the data. And so that's going to be the blue bar over here in 24-25. There's a pretty significant jump there for those career ready totals. It correlates directly with increased work-based learning data. I'm really proud of our schools. I'm proud of our employer partners, our communities. And to be honest, Mitzi, I'm really proud of our parents for understanding the need for our students to get out in the workforce and have some meaningful work-based learning experiences at the secondary level that will guide their decisions into those early post-secondary decisions and the direction that they're going to be going for what will really be that successful launch that we're looking for.
Absolutely. And that work experience is so important. You know, maybe it confirms what they want to do and they love it and they want to continue down that path, but maybe it turns out to be something that they don't enjoy. And what better way to find out than early on in high school that that's not the path that they want to take. So it can work both ways, but certainly appreciate these data points and that information. So I think we're ready to move into Mary's part, Tina, right? I mean, okay. Just wanted to make sure I didn't want to leave anything off, but Mary, the track apprenticeships are really important in Kentucky in today's climate. So, what does a modern youth apprenticeship look like in Kentucky right now? And what industries are seeing the greatest demand?
Hi, everybody. I'm just excited that apprenticeship is part of the conversation. Period. End of story. Because when I started back at KDE in 2012, it was not on no one's radar. And so that we have come this far, and to be totally honest, we're leading the country in this work is so exciting, and I'm so excited to share it. So apprenticeships in Kentucky, there we go. Thank you. We need to understand the track model. We have to understand what registered apprenticeship is. And this was the first conversation that I had when I got to KDE as far as what does this mean and how is it different? Because, Tina talked about a co-op, and a co-op it has the opportunity to lead to a placement after graduation. An apprenticeship is designed to lead to a placement. So a co-op could lead to a career. Apprenticeship is designed to. So first of all, to understand what a registered apprenticeship is, it is registered through the United States Department of Labor. It's mostly on-the-job learning combined with some classroom instruction. This is the part that really grabbed me in that first conversation that I ever had. Is it leads to a nationally recognized portable credential. So it's if it's recognized in Kentucky, it's recognized in all 50 states and the territories that this apprentice has mastered this skill. And so the second part that was so important was it's earn as you learn. So there you get paid from day one, and it's a grow your own model for employers. So that's what it looks like. And then if I think Heather, if you'd take us to the next slide, please. Okay. So, and again, before I get into the nuts and bolts of it a little bit, I think I didn't totally answer your question, Mitzi. What industries are being served by apprenticeship? So, again, when I started, it was mostly the skilled trades, and that's kind of what everybody thinks about when they think about apprenticeships is manufacturing and construction and those skilled trade occupations, and quite honestly, that's where it was. But I'm proud to say today, and I'll talk a little bit later on about where we have grown and where we can grow, because there's lots of opportunities here. And it takes everybody that is participating in this webinar today to help get the word out. And you have to understand it to get the word out. So I do commend everybody in learning more about this. So pre-apprenticeship is where, in a nutshell, that is where a student is in a career pathway. They're taking courses, 4 courses, and they take an end of program assessment. Now, we only have this in the skilled trades: electrical, welding, carpentry, heavy equipment, masonry, and metal fabrication. Because and I'll talk a little bit about what youth apprenticeship is. And quite frankly, Kentucky has defined these two things for the country. So we can because we have in the skilled trades, there are a couple of barriers of putting students on the job site. First of all, they're hazardous occupations. And second of all, there's a logistics issues. So for students that are traveling, they to a job site, that's a barrier. So we created this because the sponsors of apprenticeship were saying we still want access to these students in the trades. So, this is directly related to the CTE offerings at the school. So if they don't have those CTE offerings that I mentioned, they cannot participate in our youth pre-apprenticeship. However, and I'll put this in the chat in a little bit. However, what they can do is if you understand it, and I can tell you a website to go to, you can still direct students into apprenticeship programs. What the track model does is it streamlines and accelerates students into these opportunities because they'll get direct entry. They can go in as a second year apprentice if they have these CTE courses and they pass that assessment. But please understand that that doesn't end there. It doesn't start there. Actually, we need to go back a little bit, Heather. Thank you. Right. So we'll stop there. We'll go to youth now. Okay, so the youth model is a little different, and where that student is actually working for an employer where they're in high school. So the model is it's 3 CTE courses and a co-op in this youth apprenticeship. So they're working while they're for the employer. The model is designed that they will graduate on Friday, and on Monday they will continue in to complete that apprenticeship. So the position is available for them. The employer has gotten registered, so that credential is waiting for the student at the end of the opportunity. Now we can advance, please. So the good news is utilizing an apprenticeship is if they're able to start in high school, students don't have to choose between an education and a career. Being educated by that employer leads to the career.
So, I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. I thought you had a question for me, Missy. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, and you may have a slide that addresses this. So this is a lot of great information. I was just going to say, how does like this apprenticeship approach, in your opinion, compare to like the traditional college approach? And this is still, a post-secondary credentialing program, but a lot of times people don't think about it in a similar capacity with college.
Right, they don't. And, I think and again, I think it's the misconception. I can say the biggest misconception is it's only for the skilled trades. I think a lot of it is just a lack of understanding and understanding what apprenticeship is, what it leads to, the opportunities, because, that between that and the post-secondary opportunities is these students are getting paid from day one, and the employer assumes any cost associated with the apprenticeship. So there are no costs. There is no tuition in most cases. And sometimes there are some, but I will talk in a minute about how we can cover that. But in most cases, there's no cost with the apprenticeship, and they get paid from day one. So again, I have some wage data at the end of this to show where we've gone with this. When Tina showed the slide earlier about where our apprenticeship numbers are, yes, they are small. They should be and could be much bigger. I talk to employers all the time when they say, I can't find people. And I'm like, I know where there are thousands of them. But sometimes the employers themselves are the barrier because they say, for whatever reason, we can't implement this. And, this is what I would like to express to our listeners is, if you have an employer that's interested in that you're having the same conversation, bring me into the conversation because I have a lot of answers for them to answer the questions about why they actually can do it. And so I would be happy to share that with them. I'm actually going to ask the listeners to help reignite the track program because we were really strong before COVID, and we really have not come back to where we are pre-COVID yet. That was a lot in the trades, but again, I want to talk about we've gone into what we call non-traditional occupations. So we have our business students, and I'm throwing this out to give everybody ideas. We have our business students that are becoming insurance agents, and they're working in the banking industry. This one looks totally different, but students in the teaching learning pathway are becoming teachers for a district because the district is the sponsor of the apprenticeship, and that looks different because there's a degree attainment there as well. Healthcare, automotive, IT is a big one. So basically, if we have an employer that's willing to have an apprenticeship program, we can feed it at that local level.
Perfect, perfect. And so you mentioned, and I don't want to get ahead of the game here because I can't remember what your next slide is,
Me
but
either.
so maybe Heather advance that and let's
Yes.
see what we've got coming next.
Okay, great. So
So,
this is the wage data that I shared. And Mitzi, do you want to ask your question? Does
no,
is
no, no. I'll come back to it. This is perfect.
Are you like me? I'll forget. And I would
Oh,
forget
I've
the
got it.
answers.
I've got it written down. I'm
Okay.
good.
Okay, so KY Stats is our longitudinal database in Kentucky, and so we're tracking our track students. And so, these are again the smaller numbers that I mentioned. But if you will look at, a student that is 6 years out of graduation, and I've actually updated this. This is an older slide, so I have updated this and got some new data. So I will tell you that that median wage number is now at $84,000 for that student in that category. And if you look at the median wage in Kentucky, it's 40,000. Again, let me remind everybody, no college debt, and the students are making money from the get-go. So again, small numbers, but very powerful numbers. There's a lot of, what employers want to know about is that return on investment for retention purposes. So if you will look at the percentage that are employed, again, very high. 90% are still employed in this occupation, for the ones that started out very early on. Again, our numbers are small. That was in the very beginning. They have grown, but so is our wage number. So really excited to share that. So we've got the proof that it works.
That's great. And you mentioned no college debt, but they're still skilled workers. I mean, they're still getting those skills and they're still earning those post-secondary credentials just in a different manner.
Yes, the standards are set by the United States Department of Labor. And so that is the skills that they are meeting and the benchmarks that they are meeting. And that's how they earn that credential.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
So, you talked about misconceptions in general about apprenticeships, but I wanted to just touch base on maybe some misconceptions that families might have and, some of the like barriers that might exist from that.
Well, just thinking about an apprenticeship versus the college degree is probably one of the biggest barriers, because again, it's a lack of understanding. So
Mhm.
education's done a great job of selling the college degree, and I am not disparaging anything about, we're most of us probably on this call are products of a college degree. So I'm not, but as we all know, not every student can go, wants to go, will go, all the things. And so they were missing out before kind of this apprenticeship came into the conversation. They were missing out. And
Mhm.
so, mom and dad are really, really set on that college degree because that's what they heard, that's what they understand, that's what they've been told. And so we've had to really change a whole mindset about a college degree. And that's again, we call apprenticeship the other degree because it does lead to that nationally recognized portable credential.
Right. Thank you. And that's what, I want students and parents and everyone to understand is when we say college, we're not just talking 4-year degrees because college is so much more than a 4-year degree. College in general can be a lot of different things. And like you said, you refer to this as the other college degree. So appreciate that. I think you've answered all the questions that I have, but I do want to give you an opportunity if you've got some additional slides and some
I
different
think we do have
additional.
another slide, Heather. If you
Okay.
check for me, please. Okay, so this was a barrier too, to be totally honest. Students would be like, I don't want to participate because I'm going to lose my keys money. And that was a they'd earned it, and that was legitimate. So back in 2018, we got the legislation changed, that where apprenticeship can be, the dollars can be used for a registered apprenticeship. And so instead of it going to 2 or 4 year institutions, it looks totally different. The student is reimbursed for costs that are associated with the apprenticeship for things like tuition, books, uniforms, even up to $500 in travel, and it can be used for up to the 4 years. So, we're really excited that over $1.4 million has been awarded since 2018 to students that had earned it that would not have had access to it. So that's helped get students and parents more involved and educators understanding it, that we've tied that money to it.
That's great. That's wonderful. And it goes back to what we said in the beginning. Every student's dream is important, and there's a lot of different ways to get to the same destination. So, just helping them be aware of the opportunities, and that's what this webinar is about. It's not singling out one path or one way to get there, but just understanding the opportunities through, these early post-secondary opportunities that are available to students, helping them understand what they are and how to take advantage of them. So appreciate that information.
Thank
And
you. And in the chat, I will put where the audience can go learn about just apprenticeships in general, who has them in Kentucky, even if they don't have the career pathways that match, or we don't have a track program there, that they can still go see who in their area has apprenticeships, and they can point out to these students to help find them. And then they call those entities, because their contacts information on there, to see how they register or how they get signed up or apply.
Perfect. Well, Mary and Tina, thank you both. Great information. Your contact information is on the screen, and for everyone attending, we will email this slide deck out to you so you will have all of this information. And if you have any questions about work-based learning or about apprenticeships or any of these things, reach out to these ladies. They're here to support and here to help. So give you all one last chance, Tina or Mary, if you have anything else you want to say before we move into our next segment.
No,
I'm good,
thank you
Mitzi.
for the
Just thanks for the
opportunity.
invitation. Yeah.
Well, appreciate you both. So we're going to switch gears just a little bit and think about middle school for just a minute. And we have with us Sharon Collins. And Sharon is the middle school career studies consultant through the Office of Career and Technical Education. And I've put her contact information on the screen. But Sharon does a lot of work around career exploration in middle school and supporting counselors in that area. And so, what we've talked about today, and we still have our dual credit piece that we're going to follow up with, and this is all important when it comes to supporting students in their post-secondary journey. But a lot of times we don't start early enough. And Sharon, I know you've done a lot of work around the middle school and getting more information out to the middle school students. So, in thinking in terms of these early post-secondary opportunities, how can counselors begin talking with students about EPSOs before high school, and what are some of the benefits from that?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. With middle school exploration, it's so important to involve our middle school students, and those counselors can do such things as having those career fairs and doing interest inventories that can help them determine what they may want to do. But I also want to mention a survey that has been conducted, and we actually have some hard data now that shows how middle school exploration can benefit the high school. So I want to talk just a little bit about that data that we have found. Students that were exposed to middle school exploration were much more likely to enroll in high school CTE. That was about 80.3% compared with 77% before. They were also more likely to become CTE concentrators. And this has helped improve just by being exposed to these things at the middle school level. At a statewide scale, these differences represent a very meaningful pipeline for the students going into high school. So I'm glad that we've got this data now that actually shows the improvements that middle school exploration can help with. Other percentages, there was also an early EOP pass rate. It was much higher, 17.7 compared to 14.5. And then even those early attempts were higher from 26.4 to 22.7. So I'm just very pleased that this was a survey of about 53,000 eighth grade students. This started in 21-22, and they have these final data points were from the 24-25 school year. So I know there's more to come with that, but just that early exploration it's been proven now to help with high school programs.
That's great, Sharon. And I know we've always focused on the ILP
Mm-hmm.
as part of, starting in sixth grade, but
Yes.
it's never too early to talk
Right.
about these opportunities, and you can't
Right.
talk to students about them, too many times.
Right.
So, what initiatives are taking place in Kentucky middle schools right now to increase the career exploration and knowledge of those EPSOs? Maybe things that are going on in middle school to promote the dual credit opportunities and the pathway opportunities and that sort of thing.
So, I want to speak a little bit about the monetary benefits now, related to that. So this happened about 3 years ago where middle schools have the opportunity to possibly use some of the allocated supplemental funds. When they changed it from the LAVEC to supplemental funding, we did include middle schools. So middle schools are allowed to use a percentage of the high school allocation. I do want to mention these are not additional funds, but it is the allocated funds for the high school. And this has really benefited many middle school programs. They are able to purchase materials for career exploration, and I'm hoping to get more data with that here in the future. But through those CTE supplemental funds, this has provided funding that has been very beneficial. We, in the Appalachian region, I know this is sadly not across the entire state, but we also have funding opportunities for Appalachian regions. This is through the Empowerment Collaborative. So anyone can contact me if you are in the Appalachian region and want to know more about the Empowerment Collaborative. This is a grant that benefits also the middle schools in the Appalachian region.
Perfect.
So those are two of the larger scale type items where we are providing help. And this, again, it affects those dual credit opportunities. It affects those articulation agreements. I mean, when those students are wanting to be more involved at the high school level.
Thank you, Sharon. And let's be honest, if students are not aware of these, then they're losing out on that freshman year dual credit opportunity possibly. And Robin's going to come and talk a little bit more about that. But yeah, they need to know what's available to them and have the opportunity to take advantage if they so choose. So appreciate that. And I would be, it'd be, I have to mention that we have a post-secondary advising scope and sequence.
Yeah.
And you've been helpful in making sure that we are aligned to the career study standards and those sorts of things. But the post-secondary advising scope and sequence, if you're not familiar with it, is available on Futurity. And it has lesson plans for grades 6 through 12 that are aligned in career exploration, post-secondary opportunities, financial aid literacy, and essential skills. So if you've not had an opportunity to take a look at that scope and sequence, we certainly encourage you to do so. It is intentionally connected to Futurity. So you've got lots of opportunities to come full circle with all the great resources that are available to Kentucky. So appreciate that, Sharon. Is there anything else you want to add before we move
I
in?
just want to say thank you for mentioning that Futurity, because that has been an excellent resource for counselors, students, even parents to use. And there's a wealth of information on there for all of our stakeholders. So I just want to definitely mention use those resources and reach out. You never know what may be out there until you make those contacts sometimes, but I just want to really enforce that school counselors provide these opportunities for students to explore the opportunities that they have at the high school level.
We appreciate you,
So,
Sharon, and thanks for
thank
being
you.
here with us today. So we're going to move into dual credit now, and we have with us Robin Abear, and Robin's a familiar face with us on these webinars because she hosts many of them. But Robin leads the early post-secondary opportunities work and does a lot of work around dual credit. And while most of today's webinar has been focused on the CTE aspect of early post-secondary opportunities, and Robin will touch on that a bit. She's going to be talking about dual credit holistically. So, Robin, thank you for being here on the panelist side today instead of the host side.
Thanks, Mitzi. It feels a little weird, but thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be here.
We appreciate you being here. So, I want to get started with what are some common misconceptions about dual credit and how can counselors help students and families overcome those misconceptions?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I have quite a few misconceptions that I'd like to address today. First of all, I think sometimes students, especially, and maybe sometimes parents, have the misconception that dual credit is for our most elite or college-bound students, or that you have to take some difficult entrance exam to get in, and that's just not the case. And I think our other panelists today have talked a lot about how important it is for students to know early on about the information about dual credit and how they can be prepared as early as their freshman year. For juniors and seniors in gen ed, it's generally a 2.5 GPA. So students want to be aware of that and stay in that range so that they can be eligible for dual credit at that time. But as freshmen and in the CTE world, there are even fewer restrictions. And so dual credit is really for every student. Another misconception is that passing dual credit courses is difficult. And this is one of the misconceptions that I love to see students overcome, because the pass rate is actually very high. It's around 90% for students who are taking dual credit courses. And one of the things that being successful in a dual credit course will do is give you confidence for future post-secondary coursework. And so it's really great for students to have that experience, especially in the kind of safe environment of the high school, where they can, have some supports and then believe in themselves as college students. Another misconception has to do with transfer, either that dual credit courses always transfer or that they never transfer. There are a lot of questions about the transferability of dual credit courses. And I would just say about this one is to help students be informed. We do have a statewide transfer policy that covers general education courses. And so when students are taking courses that are in that gen ed area, they should be highly transferable. And then, the courses in CTE world are aligned to KDE's pathways. And so there's pretty good transferability, especially within our state. And of course, we always want to encourage students to stay in our state. We don't want that brain drain of them going to other places, but dual credit courses are very transferable, especially if we stay within the state.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to touch on that support piece, and because we got a lot of counselors on here, and
Yeah.
you said that dual credit, while they have support, and students will never have as much support as they have right now. So I didn't mean to interrupt your misconceptions, but
No, that's
I
fine.
just wanted to give a shout out to our counselors on here for all the work that they're doing in supporting these students.
That is so true, Mitzi. And I'll never forget at one of our community of practice meetings with our dual credit coordinators, and we had a lot of counselors there too. They were talking about how important it is, especially when you're talking about math coursework, to take those math courses, those early college math courses, as close to high school as possible. You might have the idea of, let me just push that off and take that at the last minute. But the farther you get away from that last math course, the harder it is, for the one that you're taking. So I think that's such great advice, is to go ahead and kind of check those boxes that are needed early on.
Yeah.
All right, so another misconception might be that dual credit options are kind of limited, and this could not be farther from the truth. There's a wide variety of courses in all 5 of the general education categories that we have, and then many different CTE pathways. And I think everybody on the webinar today has been really representing well all of the options that that students have. I think sometimes there are some misconceptions about how dual credit courses are and are not like other types of early post-secondary opportunities that students have, such as advanced placement coursework, IB or Cambridge courses. And dual credit is just its own model, and it is a college course, and it functions as a college course. And so students are expected to step up and communicate with their professors or their teachers. They're expected to follow the syllabus and stay up with all of the assignments that are due, and participate in the examinations that or quizzes that happen during the course. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's more or less or the same. It's just its own model. And so helping students understand what it's like to take a dual credit course is really important so that they know. I know that sometimes like the dual credit schedule might not align perfectly with the high school schedule. So things like that are really important for students to understand. Another misconception might be that around the GPA for dual credit. And so it's really important for students to understand that the grade that they earn in the dual credit course counts on both the high school and the college side. And you can't pick and choose which one you want it to apply for. It's both. And so that's why you get credit on both sides. And so in some ways that GPA can be helpful. And if you don't do well in the dual credit course, it can be harmful for your college GPA as you're starting out, your full-time post-secondary career. So it's important for students to understand how it impacts both high school and college GPA. Couple more misconceptions I want to clear up. One is that dual credit is rare, or that only a few students take it, or that it is a small proportion of college enrollment. Actually, across the nation, dual credit students make up about 20 to 25% of community and technical colleges, and 3 to 4% of four-year institutions. So when you think about that sector of enrollment, it's huge. And there are a lot of students in Kentucky who take dual credit. So for students who think, oh, this is only for the most elite, or this is not for everybody, couldn't be farther from the truth. About 50,000 students take dual credit courses every year in Kentucky. The last two misconceptions that I want to clear up. One is that dual credit support costs too much. Maybe it costs students too much, or it costs the state too much. And actually, and I'm like the state's cheerleader for dual credit, but it is a great investment. There's a huge return in the investment that our state makes for every dollar that's spent, and it really does save students a lot of time and money. And we have data and evidence to support that idea. And so, in our state, and I'll talk a little bit more about the scholarship here in just a minute, but students can actually take college courses for free, a lot of college courses for free. And that's an amazing opportunity. And I've had a lot of interactions with other states who do not provide that kind of support. And so, even though our funds are limited for the dual credit scholarship, we are grateful for the amount of support that we have in Kentucky, and also for that discounted rate that I'll talk a little bit more about later on. So it is a great investment for both students and for our state. And then the last thing that I'll say is that maybe some students and parents just have the idea that dual credit doesn't matter much, that it doesn't have much of an impact, or that it's not really a game changer. But for a lot of students, it really is a game changer. Again, our data and evidence show that students who take dual credit courses have consistently higher GPAs their freshman year in college. They enroll in post-secondary coursework at higher rates than students who don't. They persist. They have less debt at graduation. They're faster to get to their degree than students who don't participate in dual credit. So it really is a game changer for a lot of students. And so, I want counselors across our state to really encourage every student who has the opportunity to take a dual credit course, to do so, because it can really change the trajectory of their future by having the confidence, that they can actually complete a college credential or a college degree. So, that can make a huge difference in their life.
Thank you, Robin. And you've got a lot of reactions, heart emojis and cheer emojis. So what you're saying is resonating with the crowd. So
Yeah. Yeah, Mitzi, can I just say too, I don't know who the heart emojis are coming from, but I'm gonna tell you, the dual credit system in Kentucky, it's massive and it is a lot of work. And I'm so grateful for the counselors and the dual credit coordinators at our post-secondary institutions who work in this area, because it's messy sometimes, it's not easy, but it's so worth it. And you know that they really care about the student outcomes, and that's what matter most. So I'm grateful for all the hard work people do.
I am too, Robin. We've got a lot of folks on the secondary and post-secondary side doing everything they can to provide opportunities for these students, and they do not go unnoticed. We certainly
Yes.
appreciate it. And,
Yes,
and I
absolutely.
know that we are running short on time, and I knew we would be because this is an action-packed webinar full of great information. But I do want to give you time to just talk about the most important dual credit updates that counselors should know about this year.
Yeah, yeah. I really just have a couple of updates that I want to share about just changes that have happened. I know there's been a lot of conversation around the scholarships for this year. And so, just a real quick update on the CTE side, there are no changes in how the scholarship, the availability of the scholarship, or how it works, or where students can access it. There are still two scholarships each year beginning in the freshman year for high school students, for a total of possibly 8 courses over their high school career. So I hope that's clear. So I want to just make an important note that only the courses that are aligned to KDE's CTE pathways and that are approved by KDE and KIA are eligible for that scholarship. But I think everybody is pretty clear on what those courses are. On the gen ed side, there has been a change. There's been a reduction there. KIA had to make a difficult decision about where to make a cut. You know, we've had a lot of growth in dual credit. More students are taking advantage of it. And so, you know, that's a good problem. It's a growth problem, but it's also a little bit painful this year. So this year on the gen ed side, students will be eligible for only one scholarship each year, beginning with their junior year. So that means over their high school career, junior and senior year, they can take two gen ed courses free of charge while they're in high school. So this is a change from last year when students were eligible for two each year while they're in high school. And again, I'll just say, you know, growth is a great thing, but it can be painful. And this is just one of those areas where it is painful. I do want to say, though, that maybe some students do not know, and maybe some counselors don't know, that students are still eligible to take advantage of the reduced tuition rate. So if they use up all of their scholarships, they are eligible for this discounted rate for college courses that are dual credit. It's the half of the tuition rate for KCTCS, so it's still a great value. I know that not all students, you know, and families can afford even at a discounted rate, but I do want you to know that it is a bargain, and we want to make sure that students and their families are aware of this option, and we want to share that widely, that it is available. I do want to also just let you know that there is work ongoing in Kentucky around general education course alignment. We want to make sure that those courses that students take on the gen ed side are transferable. And there was some legislation passed in 2025 that addresses this, that all of the courses that are on the gen ed side are aligned to our general education course. There's a lot of information about that. I don't have time to go into you know, all the details about what that looks like, but they're aligned to those 5 categories in our gen ed core in Kentucky.
Well, thank you, Robin. And if anybody has questions, we are going to share out this slide deck. Robin's contact
Yeah.
information will be on there, my contact information. All of our guests' contact information will be available. So if you do have questions, we have had a couple of comments and or questions dropped into the Q&A. And so, for sake of time, I'm going to tell you that we will get those answers to you. I'll give Robin a chance to look at those and get those answers to you in an email if that's okay. Because I do want to give you all an opportunity to hear about a couple of upcoming events and to have an opportunity to scan the ELA QR code so that you can do that. Robin, did you have anything else you wanted to add really quickly?
Not about dual credit, but I do want to talk about the Student Access Summit. So we want to just give all of you who are with us today a warm invitation to attend the Student Access Summit that's coming up in November at the Nicely Center at WKU in Bowling Green. This year, our theme is the ABCs of Student Access. And so we're looking at high impact strategies to accelerate access to higher ed. We're looking at tools to help break down barriers that hold students back. And we want to just really work to develop these partnerships that will create the connections to support students from high school to college graduation and beyond. So the Access Summit is really focused on that transition space. And so we invite you to come. Right now, the early bird rate is still available. It's for the early bird rate is $150. And if you're one of the first 75 people to register, then you get that rate. After we have 75, then we have to bump the registration up a bit. You will be eligible for 6 hours of ELA credit when you attend. And I do want to really encourage all of you who are great practitioners to submit proposals. We have the proposal deadline. The early deadline was August 15th, but we will still continue to accept submissions all the way up through the end of August, August 31st. And so please submit some proposals so that we can have a lot of great collaboration at the summit. So you're invited to come.
Appreciate that, Robin. And I'm sure Heather dropped in the chat the link for more information and
Yeah.
how to register. Perfect. All right. And then again, we want to thank you all for being a part of this webinar today. I'm going to share that we do have one coming up in September 15th. We will be talking about connecting data and advising across K-12 and post-secondary systems. We will have a couple of districts represented. They will talk about how they're using data to inform their advising practices, and we'll have someone from KY Stats to talk about what's available to you as practitioners. So we hope to see you there. And last but not least, in order to receive your ELA certificate, we ask that you complete this short evaluation. We certainly appreciate everyone's attendance today. We appreciate all that you do for the students of Kentucky. We know you're just getting started with this school year, but we hope that you have a fabulous school year. And if we can support you in any way as you work to strengthen advising or learn more about early post-secondary opportunities available, please reach out. Susie Burkhart, myself, or Robin Aber, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have. And if we don't know the answers, then we'll connect you with the people that do. Again, thank you all so much for joining, and we hope you have a fabulous rest of your day.